Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist, and I'm sharing some couch commentary on a new Netflix documentary called Amy Bradley is Missing. This is a true crime docuseries about a woman who was 23 years old. In 1998, she just disappeared from a Royal Caribbean cruise ship that she was on, and this was traveling through the Caribbean and was just about to arrive on the island of Curacao. In this docuseries, you get some interviews with some people who were really close to Amy and also close to the case. You get interviews with family members, with friends, with law enforcement, with FBI agents. It's an extremely informative documentary for anyone who has heard about this case many years ago or as it's been brought up in the news over the years. This will be a really informative docuseries for you. One of the things that we'll do is just to start by talking about some details related to the case and then ultimately get to what we can learn from it. I always think it's important when we're talking about true crime. Hopefully, this isn't functioning as a voyeuristic behavior, but rather as something where we can try to look at this case and figure out what can we learn from it? What can we learn about safety? And, how can it inform our behavior? I think that some people watching this may be a little bit nervous to go on cruise ships going forward. And at the same time, some people have probably always been nervous to go on cruise ships for different reasons. Well, there are a few points that I want to talk about that I think are especially noteworthy about this case. One of the points that I thought was so important is the number of people that reported seeing Amy after the disappearance. And people reported seeing her and knowing details about her. For example, particular tattoos that she had that really suggest that was this her? Was she actually alive? This brings up all sorts of questions. Well, if she were alive, did she not want to reach out to people? Was she being kept against her will? Was she sex trafficked? There are all sorts of possibilities. One of the most important notes, I thought, was a woman named Judy Moorer, a woman who reported seeing Amy in a bathroom in Barbados in 2005. And this was years after the disappearance. And this woman, Judy, describes how she saw Amy, and Amy seemed distressed and scared and was with a couple of men and who walked out of the bathroom sort of arm in arm with her in a way that felt coercive, in a way that felt nefarious. Well, fast forward, this woman, Judy, was later watching an episode of Dr. Phil, she reports, and she saw this story covered. And when she saw the picture of the woman who is Amy Bradley, who has been missing, that's when Judy Morris said, "Oh my gosh, I know this woman. That was her." And that's when she reached out to share her story. Well, years later, in 2025, we still don't know what happened to Amy Bradley. It's still unclear. Is she alive? Is she dead? Sometimes when the media covers stories like this, more people will come forward and reveal information about the case. And I think that's one of the hopes with this case. Another note that I thought was especially important in the docuseries was the discussion of the photos that were sent to Amy's parents years later. And these photos appeared to be Amy. And actually, the FBI looked very carefully at the pictures that were sent. They seemed to be photos that suggested someone working in a brothel, working in prostitution, but the photos looked like Amy. Well, the FBI analyzed and measured as many components of the photographs as they could: the chin, the ears, the nose, etc. And the FBI determined in their analysis that this did appear to be the same person. Well, unfortunately, there was no way to track her down from that. Finally, I thought one of the most intriguing elements of this case is what they discovered in reviewing IP addresses related to a website. So basically, the family was updating a website with photos of the family over the years. And what they discovered was that there were certain IP addresses in Barbados, in the same area where some reported she was last seen, that would ping on certain dates that were relevant to Amy: birthdays, anniversaries. For example, on Christmas, on Thanksgiving. There were IP addresses and multiple hits specifically on days like that in this area. Well, those have never been tracked down because the FBI reported that they don't actually go to track down the IP addresses when it's in foreign countries like that. That point alone generates a lot of viewer comments, a lot of comments online about people thinking, well, it would be possible to track down those IP addresses, but it's not happening. Why aren't people making every effort to try to track down those IP addresses to see, is it her? Is she the one from that IP address who is reaching out to try to see these updated photos of her family because she wants to see what's going on with mom, what dad looks like now, how her brother is doing, and so forth. Well, so those are some of the details related to the case that the docu-series focuses on. But I also think it's really important to think about the bigger picture. What can we learn from this? And one of the things that I think that we can learn from this is when we think about situations, if any one of us were to encounter somebody, let's just take the example of somebody who thought that they saw Amy in a bathroom on a particular island in the Caribbean or another sighting. What can be done in those moments? And it sounds like Judy really made a good attempt to try to connect. She got a first name. A lot of people will say, don't actually ask for a first and last name. That could make a person who's really scared or in a dangerous position feel very distrustful. But Judy did in this situation, she reports, ask for the first name and got that information. What other things can people do if they were to encounter someone who is in danger? They can go immediately to law enforcement in that area and report it. They can try to do as much as they can to get information without making the individual feel distrusted or even put them in more danger. The FBI also has a field office that can be contacted for anyone who has information in Washington, D.C. A simple internet search for the Washington, D.C. FBI field office can show that contact information. In addition, a local embassy or consulate can be contacted if you encounter someone who appears to be in danger. And then finally, the last point that I would want to make in terms of what we can learn from this, if anyone were to encounter somebody who you think appears to be in danger and you're afraid, one of the things that you can do is ask them if there's anything they need. Ask them, is there something that I can give you? Do you need food? Do you need shelter? Do you need a crisis line? These are some things that you can ask to try to provide support if you find someone in danger. My hope is that we get information about Amy as a result of this docuseries, and also that people watching it learn something that they can use to try to help keep themselves and their loved ones safe.